Hi friends, welcome back to Calm in the Chaos Homeschool. So today's video is going to be a reflections video. I'm going to be reflecting on this past school year, maybe what worked, what didn't, what were some of the challenges that we had, what things were successes that we had. And then I'm also going to be talking about our family subjects. So what we thought of our family subjects, what we liked, what we didn't like, how all that went. So if you're interested in those topics, stick around. I will put timestamps in the description box below. So if you want to check out one section more than the other, you can skip around yourself. But before I get into this, I do want to let you know that today's video is a collaboration hosted by myself and Shauna from Homegrown Homeschool, and a bunch of other homeschool moms are going to be joining with us on their year-end reflections. So check out the description box to find a playlist below that will have all of their videos there as well. This is also the second video of my end of the year reflection series. So the last video I did was my morning basket sort of review, reflections, morning basket stuff. And then after this, I'm going to be talking more specifically about my 5th and 6th graders curriculum, and then my 7th graders curriculum, and then my 8th graders curriculum. So if you're interested in curriculum reviews at the end of the year, telling you how everything went for us, don't forget to stick around, give me a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and those videos will be coming up next. So today I wanted to start off with general reflections over the year. So in thinking about the year, I will say that overall, I think it was a pretty good year. I think it was a pretty successful year. I don't really have any real major complaints. Attitudes and stuff like that was on and off, just like a normal year. Sometimes we had people who were willing to do their schoolwork, and other times we struggled a bit more. So just kind of an average year, nothing really dramatic either way. There was something that really affected our homeschool year, I would say, towards more the beginning of the homeschool year. At the beginning of my year, one of my kids was having a harder time getting to school, a little more than the average difficulty getting to school. We do start school at 9 o'clock on the dot. I'm pretty strict about this because I don't want to be doing school all day. And I have like preteens and teens, and I know that that's going to be a bit of a challenge moving forward as we move into the future years. So maybe we'll adjust the time later, but at this point, 9 o'clock I feel is very reasonable for all my kids to be ready to start school. I feel like that's a good, solid time that's not too early and not too late. And so I had one student in particular who was really struggling getting to school. And it was more than just the preteen, teen kind of having a hard time waking up and sleeping thing. This child was having a lot of stomach issues, and it was just impacting their sleep. And so one of the things that we tried pretty early on in the year, first, I suggested that that child try to go dairy-free. So we changed that up. We got dairy-free alternatives, and we just tried to have that child stay away from dairy, and that made some improvement. And I would say pretty significant improvement. However, it was still an issue. And so the next thing I knew to try was to try gluten-free. So that child tried gluten-free, and it has made a big difference in the stomach issues that that child was having. So that has improved over the school year. It probably took us until around Christmas time to sort of figure that out. So at the beginning of the school year, this child was missing not a lot of school, but a lot more school than I would think is normal for the normal amount of illnesses or sicknesses and things like that. So at the beginning of the school year, this child missed a bit more school than the average. And after we went dairy-free, gluten-free, it's been a lot more, I would say, average for the age of the student. So that was something that affected our homeschool this year, and we have been able to see improvement because of a diet. So if you're struggling with something like that, if your child's having a lot of stomach issues and stuff, maybe you want to try that out. I actually have another child who has always kind of had the same similar issues. That child is not really at the point where they're willing to make the sacrifices to do dairy-free, gluten-free, things like that. However, we might be headed in that direction for that child as well. So it's kind of hard when we have a family where at this point we're probably should be half dairy-free, gluten-free. I'm supposed to be dairy-free, gluten-free, and then the other half are fine with eating whatever. It's just harder to do. It's more expensive to do as a family. So we might be headed in that direction. And it's amazing how something like that, something like diet, can really affect your school days, affect your child's attitude, their ability to do work, their just like being more comfortable, things like that. So that was probably one of the major things that affected us this school year, just that beginning of the school year, really rough, trying to figure it out. And then things have improved dramatically, I would say, pretty dramatically, though we do still have days where, people are still not happy to come to school and things like that. So it's still normal around here. We still have our bad days. We still have our rough mornings. We still have our days that we just can't wait to kind of get over because it just hasn't been a good day. But overall, it's been pretty good. Last year at this time, I was really struggling with one of my children's attitudes and behaviors and things like that. Thankfully, it took about 6-9 months, I think, to see improvement in this area, but we did see improvement in this area. Unfortunately, as the year progresses, I'm sorry it's so dark in here. I don't usually shoot in my bedroom and it's a little darker. I'm trying to get as much light on me as possible. But yeah, that's just, hopefully it's gonna be light enough. And the light's coming in and out, so I apologize for that. But unfortunately, some of the attitude sort of has come back towards the end of the school year, but I think it's a little bit of that. It's not at the degree that it was last year. It's just kind of resurfacing a bit. So I think we can finish our school year, and I think we're going to make it, and I hope we won't get stuck in the rut that we were in last year. So honestly, that is really the struggles that we've had this school year. We haven't had a lot of other issues. Things have been moving along pretty well. I feel like we have done what I would expect to do the way we do curriculum, which is not finishing everything as usual, but that's just because we just do a lot of different things. So that's sort of my general reflections about this homeschool year. Okay, so let's get into my family subjects and what we did as a family. We have 5 subjects that I would say we kind of looped through as a family. So these include health, science, geography, history, and music. And I would say we don't generally do all these subjects in a year, and so that's why we move through some of these things a little more slowly. So I'm going to go ahead and start with health. So we have been working on Guest Hollows Junior Anatomy for 2 years. This is our second year working on this. And I would say that we would have finished this except we're part of a parent partnership program, and they insist that we do health every year. And I didn't really want to come up with any new health to do next year. And I do enjoy this, and we were just kind of rushing to try to finish it at that point. So I decided to stop working on this towards the end of the school year and just save what we have left for the upcoming school year. So the last section that we did on health since the last time I updated you was nutrition. And I talked about it in my last video, my term 2 video. What I was planning on doing, I was planning on watching Super Size Me, then a documentary called Fathead. And those 2 documentaries really go well together. Well, one, because Fathead is actually sort of a criticism of Super Size Me, but it's very interesting. The 2 documentaries, it went really well. I did sort of skip some parts in Super Size Me because I didn't feel like they were appropriate for my kids at their age. Fathead generally was okay. It's sort of he's more of a comedian, but he's coming back at Super Size Me and kind of refuting some of the things that the guy was saying. in Super Size Me. And so it just kind of takes two different viewpoints of health and nutrition and personal accountability and what the corporation should be doing and what we should be doing as individuals. And it really went really well. My kids really enjoyed it. I feel like we got to talk about the points I wanted to talk about as far as nutrition, as far as believing everything you hear, everything you see, talking about personal responsibilities versus government and what they are responsible for. And so, I mean, we didn't go super deep, but I really liked the conversations that we had regarding that. And then that is sort of where I stopped for health this last term. And so we have like the urinary system left, the endocrine system, the integumentary system. I don't know how to say that. We have germs. We have diseases and parasites. We have drugs, alcohol. I'm going to talk about drugs, alcohol, vaping, things like that. We have a little bit on growth and reproduction. I have a book that I want my boys to read when we hit that point. And then maybe we'll do survival and what to do in emergencies. So we are going to go into our third year of using Guest Hollow Health. So that shows you that we have really enjoyed it. When I saw this program, I was really excited because it just looked like an exciting way to tackle health. Health is not one of my favorite subjects. And so just the way Guest Hollow tackles it with their variety of resources and just like, it just inspires creativity, I feel. And I've showed you these books before, but the spines that we've been using are 100 Things to Know About the Human Body. This is not a Guest Hollow suggestion, but we have been reading this when we do our health. So we just do a 2-page spread. So this is an Usborne book. And then there's Blood and Guts. So that just goes through all the different topics. And so we've been reading that. And then we have been doing the body book. And so that is cutouts and you kind of create little different parts of the body system. So we do that. That's probably about as hands-on as we get as a family. And then we've been reading a whole bunch of the extra books and stuff that Guest Hollow recommends. And that's really the part that makes this exciting. And then adding on the YouTube videos, once again, just love Guest Hollow, and their health videos were excellent. I really enjoyed that playlist. I just make them all into a playlist, and we really enjoyed their health playlist. So that is one of the subjects that we did, and I do recommend it. It's just been taking us a while. So I'm planning on spreading out the rest of that over the whole of next year. So we can do this for 3 years, can't we? Okay, so speaking of health, that is sort of science related. So I'm going to show you the science that I have been doing with my 2 boys. So this is not exactly a group subject. My girls have their own science this year. I'll talk about that in their own videos, but the boys, they're still doing this together. So I'm just going to throw this science into our group subjects. It's usually the one I would do last, like in our group subject time. Once in a while, I'd say, okay, I'm doing science. And then my girls would leave and I would do this with my boys. So the science that we have been working on this year has been Guest Hollow, actions and reactions. This is the first Guest Hollow curriculum I ever purchased, probably around 3 years ago. I learned about Guest Hollow. I think I heard first of their chemistry in the kitchen. Some YouTuber was talking about that, and I was like, that sounds really fun. Sounds like my daughter would really enjoy that. I should look into that curriculum. And then I went on to Guest Hollow's website and I started looking at all the things they had to offer. And I saw actions and reactions and I got really excited about it. But then I didn't start it for at least a year. That's generally how I do things. I'm like always thinking ahead. So we didn't get super far in this, and not because of anything Guest Hollow. It's just we have so many things going on. So I would say at this point, we are around week 10 out of 36. Yeah. So we did not get very far in this. I don't have it in my plan, my official plan to do in the upcoming school year. But that's more because of the parent partnership program. They always want us to pick a new science and do something new. Generally, I feel pressured to do something new. So I am creating my own unit for next year for science for my boys. But I still probably will do this anyways. And I'll probably try to do this at least at the very beginning of the school year. So I don't know. I have a really hard time not finishing curriculum unless we don't like it, and we do like this. So I will say about this is we did not do the main spine, which is Apologia exploring physics and chemistry, or chemistry and physics. And that's just because we are not really, I've looked at Apologia books. I looked at that book. I actually had it. I just didn't feel like we would do it. So we have been doing this quite differently. We have just been going through the additional books that they suggest and watching the YouTube videos and doing some of the experiments. And even so, we're still only on week 10. So, I mean, the reason for that is we got stuck on a few books here. I'm just going to show you some books that we've been doing. So this is one that I picked up. It's called The Elements by DK. And I just thought this was beautiful. And so we have been reading a 2-page spread every time we do Guess Hollow, and so that takes some time. So I've been reading that as sort of something we do every time. And then one that is a Guess Hollow suggestion is the Complete Periodic Table. And so I will read whichever of these that go with the Elements one that I'm reading. And so this is kind of fun. They have like little, it's like these little elements have like personalities and stuff. So you can see from here, we're not quite halfway through this book. And so that's something I do every time we do science. So I read those too. And then, so I would say, I guess I'll call that our spines, even though it's just going through the elements. And then we are reading like Guest Hollow suggestions. So the last few that we've been reading, we read Snowflake Bentley. And so this is a book for younger kids. I would say it's a picture book. So I read it in maybe 1 or 2 settings, but it was really interesting because it's basically about a man who is just fascinated by snowflakes, and it's just like his life. And his parents spend like their life savings on buying this camera for him so he can take pictures of snowflakes. And then he becomes like the world expert on snowflakes. And it just makes me think this man maybe had autism because it just reminds me of my son and some autistic people I know. So it's just cool. I mean, or a kid with ADHD, right? Just the super hyper fixation on their special interest. So I found this one really interesting just because it just reminded me of my kids. And then we read another one. Here's another example. We read Chemical Reaction with Max Axum. And so this is just a comic book style, but it kind of goes through what is a chemical reaction and breaks it down and shows pictures and stuff. So really enjoy these little comics, and my kids do too. So I think I was able to read that in 1 setting just because my boys were so interested. And then we have like the story of salt, and this we probably read in 2 settings, and it's just about salt and how important salt is throughout history, what it was used for, how kingdoms rose and fell, and how power was distributed based on salt, and just how important this element is. And we just started reading this here. So Marie Curie, the woman who changed the course of science. And I'm not sure why I started this. I don't think we're going to finish this. So just a variety of books like that. So I will say doing actions and reactions our way without using that spine of Apologia, it does definitely change dynamics of the course. I think the spine would really pull things together a little bit more, whereas using all these supplemental resources, we're just like tackling all these different things. However, I feel like just going through the elements and then just bringing in all these different things, we're just learning physics, we're learning chemistry, we're learning about different elements and their importance. So it doesn't feel too disjointed for me. I mean, my kids are just in 5th and 6th grade. So we're just learning about different things. So I feel like we're learning a lot, even if it might be a little disjointed the way we're doing it for some people. So next I'm going to move into history. So history was not a focus of mine this year. It was something I just kind of was continuing on. We had done Bookshark D and E last year, the combination year, but we didn't finish it. So I wanted to continue on Bookshark D and E, as well as I had picked up Beautiful Feet Books, Modern American and World History. And so I was kind of mushing those together, which means that it's going to take longer to do. But basically we got through maybe about 35 lessons of this modern American and world history. So the books that we did with Beautiful Feet Books, Modern American History, I'm not sure, across 5 Aprils, not sure if we read that this year or last year. Things are starting to blur together. And The Perilous Road. I'm not sure if we did that last year or this year. Then we did The Narrative Life of Frederick Douglass. I talked about that. I don't think it's appropriate for middle school per se. I would say high school, that would be a better book for them. Then we read Carver, A Life in Poems, and we sort of did these two at the same time. So we had Carver, A Life in Poems, and Theodore Roosevelt. And it's not scheduled that way. It's scheduled for you to do this first and then this, but I wanted to put those together because these are pretty hefty poems and not always totally, like, my kids could understand some of it, but not always. And like, they cover things like the Ku Klux Klan, so pretty heavy poems. In fact, there's a poem that we skipped because they do have notes in the book that you might want to skip because of certain words in there. And then we had Theodore Roosevelt, which we read alongside, which was a lot simpler of a read. So I just felt like pairing these together, we could get through it a little easier. So we did those two. And then Book Shark D and E had the story of Thomas Alva Edison, which we hadn't read yet. This is a super easy read. Like, maybe it took me 2 times to read that. But my kids were really interested in that. My youngest is super into inventing and like the phonematograms and I don't know, all the gram things. So that was like just straight up his alley. And then we have started the Wright brothers here towards the end of the year. I have a few books. I'm like, why did I start these books? Am I going to finish them? We have 2.5 weeks left of school. So I think I can finish this one. So that has been sort of the books that we've read in history this year. And then as far as our spine, I have been using, I didn't bring it up, I'll have to put a picture up here. I have been using the DK Smithsonian Visual Encyclopedia of American History. That has worked well for us as a spine. I've talked about this before. Beautiful Feet Books suggests this one, A Child's First Book of American History, but I didn't love it. I have seen it before and I didn't love it, so I decided to go with the DK book. And I'm just reading through the different sections as we go through history. So we got, if we finish the Wright brothers, we will get to lesson 34 out of about 118, 117 in this book. So we did not get very far in history, but like I said, that wasn't a focus for us this year. I was really focusing on geography. And so I feel bad that we didn't get to the end of American history. We really got up to World War I. We haven't started World War I yet. But so my plan is that next time we come around to American history, I might just go very fast over that first part of American history and then just get to the world wars and start going in a lot deeper into the world wars and things like that. So I might bring this Beautiful Feet Books guide out when we get to modern American history again in the future. I think it will be more appropriate for when my kids are older anyways, based on the books that we've used so far. So that is how history went for us. Yeah, so I guess for not focusing a lot on it, we did get some done. We did get through quite a few books and we did learn things. We did go to a museum that's about 2 hours away from us. So we live about 2 hours from Seattle. And so we went to Museum of Flight, and so we got to see like a replica of the Wright brothers plane, and we got to go on like, I think it was the plane that presidents used, like John F. Kennedy back in those days, like the presidential plane. I think it was the actual plane. It looked like it. They had all the stuff like it was. So we got to go on just a bunch of different types of planes, and then we learned about space travel and just flight stuff. So that was really cool, and it went along well with what we've been doing in Guest Hollow. We had learned a lot about balloon flight, hydrogen balloons, helium balloons, things like that. And then they also had a lot of history. So like kind of coming into what we've been studying in history and kind of leading up to World War I and all the inventions and stuff as far as flight goes. So that went really well with what we were learning in history and in science this year. All right, so now a really, really, really big subject for us this year. The focus of this year has been world geography, and more specifically, geography of the Eastern Hemisphere. So I have had two resources that I have been sort of mushing together as usual. So the first one, we actually started this beginning of last year, I would say. So Guest Hollow High School Geography and Cultures curriculum. And last year we got through maybe the first 8 to 10 weeks. So we covered like physical geography, and then we went into US, Canada, Mexico, North America. That's what we got to. And then this year I knew my focus was going to be on countries and cultures of the Eastern Hemisphere because we are part of that parent partnership program. And the next level we were going to do was Book Shark F, which focuses on the Eastern Hemisphere. So I actually have a Sonlight guide, so I kind of follow the Sonlight F guide a little more, but a lot of the books are the same. So what I did was I used Book Shark or Sonlight's read alouds and readers. That's primarily what I used for geography. I was doing a lot of the read alouds, and they were reading a lot of the readers as we traveled through the different countries in the Eastern Hemisphere. And so what I did with this was I just skipped to the Eastern Hemisphere. So for this curriculum, they start in Russia as far as the Eastern Hemisphere, and I've been following along with that. So that is about halfway through this guide. So we just skipped some lessons and we moved to Russia, and then we went to, I think we went from Russia, Middle East, India, and moved up to China and Taiwan, and then we're going to finish the year with Japan and North and South Korea, and that is really just squeezing that in these last 2 weeks. And then we still have, I was hoping to finish all of Asia, but we still have Southeast Asia to do next year, and then we're going to move over to Africa, and then we're going to go to Australia, New Zealand, and maybe Antarctica. Yeah, we'll see about that. So we didn't completely finish the whole Eastern Hemisphere that I wanted to. However, I do feel like we did make really good progress. We really enjoyed doing it this way. And so what I do with Guest Hollow with all of my kids are the spines that Guest Hollow has. So Guest Hollow has some really, really great spines that they schedule out for you to read. And so this is what I was doing with all my kids when we were in group time. So just to look at these resources here, we have the Where on Earth Atlas. So it's just a really big book. And so they'll tell you like which pages to read when you're covering the different countries. So we're in Asia right now. And we had the DK Smithsonian People and Places. And so beautiful, beautiful book. Really enjoyed that one. Now, they also have other books that come in, like I Am Malala. They suggested that one. We read that one this year. We really enjoyed that. The kids really liked that. And then we are reading this right now because we're in China. So Foundations of Chinese Civilization. And this is just a different way to look at history. I wouldn't say it's graphic novel per se, but it does have graphic novel elements. There's a lot of information in here. And so this is how we've been studying like the history of China. So we've been reading that. That's not a spine. That's just in here. I didn't want to lose my order. So I have things in order based on what we're going to do like the next time we do geography. This is, the rest are spines. So then we have Hungry Planet. And these have been really interesting. They have really interesting pictures. The only thing about these are they're more in the 90s. So they are a bit on the older side. However, they just give really good information about different countries in an interesting way. And then along with that is also Material World, very similar, also in the 90s. And this shows, so the first one, Hungry Planet, shows what people eat in a week in different places of the world. And then Material Planet shows sort of all the first picture is always the entire family with all of their belongings outside of their home or something. So you can see all their belongings. So it lists everything that they own. And then they just talk about their life and kind of as they go about their life. So those have been two really great ways to learn about geography and just about how people live around the world. And then we have Prisoners of Geography, Our World Explained in 12 Maps. And these are this is the kids' versions. So I've gone with the younger, because my kids are mostly middle school and not high school. They do have like suggestions for older kids. And then they have suggestions for younger kids. I always went with the younger kids suggestions just because of the ages of my kids. And then they do have a suggested book that's similar to this. This one is A World of Wildlife. I'm not sure if that one's like Wildlife Around the World. I feel like it's the exact same book though. It might just have changed the title. This might be just the newer edition perhaps. But this is beautiful. And this, we're just learning about different animals in the different areas. So that has been the spine of our geography that we do together with Guest Hollow. So really enjoyed that. They have additional books that you can read on top of that. However, I use some of the Guest Hollow's literature, but I really enjoy having like all the suggestions for Sonlight, Bookshark, those suggestions as well as the read alouds. So that's what we kind of do with Bookshark and Sonlight. And then my daughters who are in 7th and 8th grade this year, they have been doing the online textbook that Guest Hollow has. So they have an online textbook with embedded internet links, and then they have a workbook. And so they've been filling out the workbook as they go through the videos online. And that has been going really well. It's very nice. It's like the first time I've given them like a textbook type of thing on their own to do and worksheets to fill out. And that has been going really, really well. Now we did do that together as a family last year. I was reading the online textbook and we were filling out the workbooks together. So all of us together. And so it's been nice to be able to hand that over to the girls. I was just deciding like, what can we do as a group and what do I need to kind of divvy out? So I'm glad that I gave the girls that responsibility. It's just that higher level of information about world geography that my boys don't necessarily need right now. And then maybe when we come to geography again with the boys, they can go ahead and do the online textbook and we can just do some of the things differently. So one thing I really do like about Guest Hollow curriculum is it's super adaptable to you and your kids, and you can take things out and still have so much to do, and you can take some of the pieces and not do some of the pieces. And I really do think that I will probably at least do one of the curriculums again with my boys at some point at a different level. And so I really like thinking, oh, like we can do that next time we go through this curriculum. So we'll see if that happens. I don't generally like to repeat things, but if I did repeat things, it would be a Guest Hollow curriculum just because they're just so fun. I don't get paid to say all these good things about Guest Hollow. We just really enjoy the curriculum. So the last group subject that I have to share with you is music. And that is not something we started the year with. I feel like I was way too overwhelmed at the beginning of the school year to add this, even though I did have this. And I had planned on starting it because it really went well with our geography. And I sort of had impulse bought it in the summer, but then I just was not feeling like capable of adding it to our group time. I did add it after Christmas time, and that is Living Harmonies by Thistles and Biscuits. And so Living Harmonies, if you've heard of Woven Melodies, I think that this is the next level. I'm not sure what Woven Melodies is exactly, but Living Harmonies just went really well with our geography study because it goes through different areas of the world, well, different types of music, but they are from all places of the world. So we have like flamenco, we have jazz, we have tarab from Africa, we have Gamalian from Indonesia, Armenian, we have Hagoku from Japan, Appalachian music, musical theater, cumbia from Colombia, and Scandinavian folk music. So I have definitely been jumping around in this and just picking different types of music to go with the different places that we are studying. And we got about halfway through this. So that's not bad. We got about halfway through this, even though we started halfway through the year. I know that's like, you should do that, but that's not generally how we work in our homeschool. So getting halfway through has been quite a success. We will continue to do this as we continue our geography in the upcoming school year. And yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun to add in that musical element. I do want to go back though to Guest Hollow geography. I didn't mention that the other things that we really enjoy about the Guest Hollow geography curriculum is their playlist or their suggestions for YouTube videos. So we watch a lot of the YouTube videos that Guest Hollow suggests. They have a lot. Like I make a playlist with all of the videos, and then we're usually going through the countries faster than we can get through the YouTube videos. So then I have to go through and like delete things that are too long or maybe we're not super interested in, but they have a great list of YouTube videos, and they also include music from each of the areas. So we have been listening to music from around the world. So this just adds a little more focused study, more musical, like more of a study on music, but we have been listening to music around the world as we travel around the world and go through the different countries. So that is our family subjects. I can't say we didn't like anything. I think everything went pretty well. Beautiful Feet books, Modern American History. I felt like some of the books weren't entirely appropriate for the range that they said. I think it's for 5th through 8th grade, maybe 5th through 8th grade. And I feel like some of the books were definitely on the 5th grade level, but then there's some books that are definitely in the, I feel like much more appropriate for high school and beyond, just because of the subject matter. Yeah, I've talked about it. The narrative life of Frederick Douglass. I don't think it should be in a middle school. It's just so, I mean, it's hard, but it's also quite detailed on the sorts of things that slaves went through, which is good information to have. I'm not mad that my kids know it, and I'm not mad that we had to talk about it. I just felt like it was like a little bit more than my younger kids needed to know specifically at this point. So, but it's still a good curriculum. I would just suggest you are on the older ages when you're doing that curriculum because of the subject matter. Yeah, but everything else, we've really enjoyed the health, Guest Hollow Health. We have actions and reactions, Beautiful Feet books, this, and our geography. We've just really enjoyed our group subjects. Generally, that's how we have been going. Yeah, so I would say it's been a win for our group subjects. We don't always get through everything as we want to, but we have learned a lot, and it's been just a very rich school year. So very happy with our school year, and I hope next year goes just as well. We do have some changes coming up in the upcoming school year. Maybe. We're still waiting. We're still waiting for my oldest to get into a school that we're trying to get her into. Like, it's 2 days a week school. So it's going to change our schedule. It's going to change our time together as a family, which I'm not looking forward to. I really enjoy all the time that we have together as a family. However, it's just, we feel like is best for her in the upcoming school year. But we'll see if she gets in. If she doesn't, then it's just God saying no. And we'll just continue on as we are, and we'll take advantage of any of the extra time that we have that we can do group subjects together. So thank you so much for coming today. And don't forget to check out the playlist below to see how all the other homeschool moms' years have gone, their reflections on their school years. Don't forget to come back to see all my kids' independent work or the work that's at more at the grade level, how those curriculums went for us this year. So thanks for coming today, and I hope to see you all in a future video. Bye, everyone.